This is Digital Anarchist.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining us here for another segment of TechStrong TV. In this segment, I'm really happy to be joined by Brian Muskoff. Brian is Director of Product Management at HCL Software, and this segment is another in our continuing series as we cover the launch of the Value Stream Management Consortium. HCL is one of the 5 founding members of the VSM Consortium. Brian, welcome to TechStrong TV.
Thank you, Alan. It's really great to be here.
Thank you. You know, Brian, well, in my mind anyway, HCL Software needs no introduction to the DevOps audience. You guys have assembled, developed a broad and deep platform of DevOps tools and solutions for our market. But maybe there are folks out there who don't know or they're not familiar. If you don't mind, let's start there before we even dive into VSM. Let's talk a little bit about the HCL Devops Lineup.
Sure. Yeah. HCL Technologies, of course, is the parent company of HCL Software, very large global technology company that has its roots in service outsourcing, IT service outsourcing, but over the last 5 years has created $1 billion software business. And, you know, at the root of that are 4 core pillars, DevOps being one of those core pillars. And our portfolio really is end-to-end across the tool chain. So we've got, you know, right out of the gate, products for agile work item management, source control management, and really our shining stars are in the areas of continuous delivery, automated test management, and of course, value stream management.
Hence the membership in the sponsoring of Value Stream Management Consortium. And you know what, Brian? Sometimes it's good. People probably have name recognition of some of these solutions that you guys are doing. So again, just for people who may not be familiar, put some names to these placeholders there, you know, in testing and in CI/CD and VSM. What are some of the products?
Yeah, so our roots are really through an IP partnership we have with IBM. And so some of, you know, the market may know the IBM names of the products and the Urban Code and Rational brands, but HCL has made derivative products with new brand names that we launched last summer. So our VSM product is called HCL Accelerate. Our continuous delivery product is HCL Launch. And our test automation product is HCL One Test. And so, you know, we're still in the early days of, you know, securing that brand recognition, but we think before too long, we'll have the similar recognition that, you know, our heritage products do.
Absolutely. And that's what I want you to do. So let me just recap. We've got HCL Accelerate, right? And then there were the other 2 were?
Yeah. HCL Launch is for continuous deployment, and we've got HCL One Test for test automation. It's really a testing suite.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's as I said right from the beginning, it's a broad and deep bench of solutions in there. But I asked you for a reason. I want people to start becoming familiar with these names.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, it's. You know, the other thing I would mention is you mentioned the IBM relationship. My understanding, and if I'm wrong, correct me, is look, it's HCL which is now carrying the water in terms of continuous development. That's a pun on a DevOps show. But in continuing the development of these products, IBM may still sell them in their channel, but it's HCL who's doing a lot of the heavy lifting and keeping these products current and state of the art.
Yeah, I would describe our relationship very synergistic. So, you know, IBM's a very strong partner of ours, and, you know, of course, has a very large installed base of the DevOps products. At the same time, they have partnered with HCL for all of the product engineering and support. And so, you know, we have that within our organization. And what we've done is made derivative products, or you can kind of think of it as a fork for our own HCL versions of those products. And so we've, continued to build on, the great base that we had with the IBM products, but HCL is investing heavily in our own innovation, our own ideas, our own product management, and so forth. So yeah, there's quite a deviation at this point between the two product lines.
Absolutely. Hey, before we go further, I just got to mention, you got a nice DevOps books collection behind you there. I think I recognize every single one of those. So
thank you. Yeah, no, we're fortunate in our industry to have a great library of content, and I'm no stranger to the books there.
Absolutely. All right, let's talk VSM, value stream management. So, Brian, as we were talking offline, I mentioned that we had several of the initial, founding member organizations representatives on our show this past week. We have you now on behalf of HCL. I'm going to ask you the same question I asked all of them. Can you define for our audience what exactly is value? How do you define value stream management?
Yeah, that's a great question.
I think we all have our own different definition. Yeah, let's start there.
Yeah. It's part of the reason we put this consortium together is because VSM means different things to different people. It's no different than Agile or DevOps. 20 years later on Agile and 10 years later than DevOps. It still has a bit of nebulous meanings. But at the same time, I think we can kind of put some parameters around how we think about VSM. Our perspective from an HCL perspective, point of view is quite broad. VSM is not just limited to, say, aggregation of data in a data warehouse perspective with, say, a DevOps slant on a business intelligence view. It's much broader than that, right? It does encapsulate many of the technical needs of aggregating data, but it's more about, how do we change the ways of working? How do we make the work life better? How do we get better business results? We've heard these notions of project to product or, output to outcomes. That's all part of this, right? How do we get the business results that were intended at the beginning of the cycle, at the end of the cycle? And so from our point of view, we've scoped VSM to include really 4 core capabilities. It's value stream visualization. So on a real-time basis, how can we see the ideas from the beginning all the way through the end and identify any bottlenecks or friction that organizations may have in that process and alleviate them? The second area is around insights. So as we aggregate data from across the DevOps tool chain, how can we create KPIs? How can we identify trends? How can we identify who are our high-performing teams, who are our low-performing teams, and how can we make those high-performing, or all of our teams look like the high-performing teams? But what stands out, I think, from an HCL standpoint with value stream management is the other 2 capabilities, and that's the ability to take action on those insights. And so you look at something like pipeline aggregation. In any large organization, you're going to be using a whole number of different CI/CD tools, or really just tools across the tool chain. You hopefully have some HCL launch or maybe some urban code build, but more than likely you've got some Jenkins or Ansible or maybe a Zebia or something like that in the mix. Mm-hmm. Well, you could even have those tools within the same organization. And what our VSM product allows you to do is actually aggregate all of those tools into a single pipeline view. And not only can you see, what's deployed where and when, you can actually execute or orchestrate deployments from that pipeline view. And then the fourth area is around release orchestration. Well, some smaller, maybe more nimble cloud native type teams can deploy with a click of a button. For the rest of the horses, I guess you could say, it requires much more orchestration across the organization, say manual tasks and, just general coordination across all of the functions to get software delivered. And that's what we view as part of the VSM scope.
Excellent. Good stuff. So Brian, what was kind of the driver for joining the consortium for HCL?
Yeah, like I think we can all recognize value stream management's not necessarily a new concept, right? It's something that's been around, in the lean manufacturing, even in software delivery space for some time. But, what's different now, I think, is we've solved many of what I would describe as day one problems. You've got to have, your fundamentals around CI/CD and test automation. If you don't have those, you probably should be looking at, ensuring that you've got that automation in place. But many of the customers we're working with, the leaders in the space, they're looking to see what's next. What's day two? And from our perspective, that is value stream management. How do you do DevOps better? How do you take DevOps to the next level? And since customers have already solved many of those fundamental DevOps, automation challenges, and it's contained within tooling, we now have the technology to pull those tools together, make sense of that data, and solve new problems. Like, how do we, connect the dots across that tool chain and not just kind of optimize in a silo, but optimize all the way, across the entire, DevOps tool chain.
I agree. The consortium launched with 5 kind of founding vendor members, right? And from what we've learned in talking to some of the other members is that it's kind of an MVP right now, right? It's a minimal viable product in that now we are looking for other members to join in, right? Practitioners, consultants, organizations that, value, no pun intended, value stream management, right? And does HCL have a plan to help recruit, whether it be customers or others into the consortium?
Absolutely. Yeah. No, we're very grateful to the work Helen Beal's done to organize the space. We feel that we have critical mass. If you look at the founding members, and who's going to be on your, webinar next week, wow, it's the leaders in the industry. And so now it's about growing that base and diversifying. So, how do we pull in, practitioners that are solving these types of problems on a daily basis? And so, yeah, when you look at, our investment in VSM from an HCL standpoint, no doubt about it, we're going to be tapping into our customer relationships and seeing what we can do to build this membership out.
Great. The next thing, and again, I asked it of all the folks who've been on so far, and that is 6 months, a year from now, what does success look like in your mind for the consortium and for HCL? Right. So HCL says, I'm glad we did this. This was a good thing. What does success look like?
That's a great question, Alan. Yeah. I think you could look real tactically at, call it membership levels or just kind of general engagement with the consortium. And we certainly have goals from an organizational standpoint there, but more strategically, I think what we're looking to do is establish, a de facto standard around how we deliver software moving forward. When Agile started or DevOps started, it was fairly grassroots, right? It took several years for it to take hold. And even today, there's organizations that are still struggling to understand what it really means to be Agile. From a value stream management perspective, I think what we need to do is solidify, what the core concepts of value stream management are and start to surface those best practices throughout the industry and generally educate, the market on, what the value add is from a value stream management perspective.
Got it. Sounds great, man. Hey, Brian, we're probably coming up on time here. But what do you think's next? I mean, you mentioned we're doing a webinar, but we mentioned maybe bringing on some more membership. What else do you think is next short term for the consortium here in terms of continuing to make progress?
Yeah, one of our key deliverables early on is going to be a state of the value stream management market. And so we're currently running a survey to collect the data that will help drive that survey.
That's great.
So there's a lot of focus there, but we've got other work streams going on with the consortium, in terms of creating content, defining, standards, and just generally kind of level setting across all of the participants on, where we want to take this organization. And I'd encourage everybody that, has an interest in this field, take a look, and, there's opportunities to get involved and really make an impact in the early days.
Yeah. I should mention the website for the consortium, I believe, is vsmconsortium.org.
You got it. Yep.
So anybody who wants to get involved or find out more, stay abreast, can go there. VSM, that's Value Stream Management, vsmconsortium.org, and you can get stuff there. Hey, Brian, congratulations to you and the whole HCL team for having a hand in founding this and lifting it off. We wish you all a lot of success with it. I think it's something the community needs.
Thanks for having me on, Alan. I think when we look back, say 5-10 years from now, VSM is going to be alongside Agile and DevOps as just a de facto standard, a mainstay in the way that we build software. Look forward to this journey with you.
Absolutely. All right. This is Alan Shimel for TechStrong TV. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back with our next guest. Stay tuned.